Good morning, Judge Lopez. How are you? Thank you for being here with us. My name is Nisa Talavera, and I'm with the Patagonia Regional Times newspaper. So tell us a little bit about yourself, about your position, perhaps where you went to school, how long you've been in the community,
Mhm.
things of that nature.
Sure. I'm originally from Nogales, born and raised. Grew up here, went to Nogales High School, um, went to college on the East Coast. So I ended up going to the George Washington University in Washington, D.C., where I did my bachelor's degree. I actually did a double major there in Latin American studies and in international. I ended up going to law school straight out of undergrad. I went to Arizona State University in Tempe. There I had also a scholarship. I had a tuition waiver and a stipend to help me get through it. So I'm very appreciative of the fact that I was given a lot of opportunities to get to the place where I could study and really excel at and becoming a lawyer eventually. So I did my 3 year stint of law school, came out with a Juris Doctorate out of ASU. And then very shortly thereafter, decided that I wanted to make a jump to New York City. I was, like I said, a very kind of ambitious young person. I wanted to see the world. I wanted to test the waters. I ended up practicing in New York City as a real estate attorney, corporate attorney for about 25 years. I'm actually still a practicing lawyer in New York. Um, and then decided after the COVID came, people were working remotely. I started to rethink living in a 250 square foot apartment in Manhattan. uh, and started to think, okay, well, what are my options here? I started spending a lot more time in Santa Cruz County um, over the pandemic, and then started to really think about how I could make the transition back to Santa Cruz County, what that would look like. Um, and I've always had this idea in the back of my head, this idea to pay it forward. There was a lot of people, like I said, that helped me get to the place where I could go to college and go to law school and make a career out of practically nothing. And so I really did have this sense of how was I going to give back to Santa Cruz County? How was I going to, kind of make good on that promise that I made way back at 17 when I said, one day I'll be back and one day I'll be here to do some good here. So it was the universe had its plan for me. It just so happened that I was able to come back here um, of my own accord, and then the position at the Justice Court opened up. So I've been in the position since December. The supervisors basically said to me on a Thursday, report to work on Monday, and I have been here ever since. Um, it has been a wild ride. It has been a never-ending roller coaster, but this is what I love to do. I love to be of service. From my perspective, that's a loaded question, but I will tell you the shortest answer I could possibly give you. And number one, I think it is education and experience. Those are the two biggest factors I think that you really need for this position. This job requires legal knowledge, and it also requires you to have some life experience. I think people come into this courtroom from all walks of life with different. Every single case I see has some little twist to it, and I think without that kind of life experience, it would be hard to make those decisions. Without also having a background in law, so that you know what the parameters are. I am a very big believer in that judges should apply the law as written. I think that that is one of the most important caveats of the judicial system. And I think that without having that legal background, it would be hard to kind of balance those two factors. Also, I think this court in particular has some very peculiar and unique courts around Arizona in smaller communities all have this kind of peculiar little thing about them is that we, as justice of the peace, we determine probable cause for all felonies. So we do not have grand juries. It would be very expensive and very hard in smaller rural communities like Nogales or like Santa Cruz County or other smaller communities around Arizona to gather up people to come into a grand jury. So it is the responsibility of the Justice Court to determine probable cause on all felony cases. From my perspective, without a legal background, that tends to be something that could get very tricky. I understand those legal concepts. I may not have been a criminal lawyer for the 25-year career that I had in New York City, but I do have that legal framework. I do have that kind of base of knowledge that I draw on. And I think it's important. I think the Justice Court sees all different kinds of cases. It's the busiest court in the county. And I think, you have to have someone who can kind of switch gears quickly, who's a critical thinker, who can think on his feet. And that to me is something that this job needs, and it's something that I bring to the table.
Justice of the peace, especially in Santa Cruz County, have heavy caseloads and are challenged with remaining unbiased. How would you handle the pressures of the position, and what tools do you bring to the position that will make sure you're making fair and reasonable and equitable decisions?
I'm a New York City, Manhattan real estate lawyer, corporate lawyer. So I can handle stress. This to me, at the beginning, when I first sat on the bench and people were saying the caseload's enormous, there's going to be a lot of pressure, there's going to be a lot of moving parts, my first reaction was like, okay, seriously, I'm a New York City lawyer. I can handle this. I have 25 years experience of handling enormous caseloads. So I am very adept at being able to pull out relevant information, apply the law, and resolve cases in what I feel like is the most efficient, equitable, and just way. It takes critical thinking. That's something that comes from training. A law school is a very intensive program that teaches you and reworks your brain and makes you think in ways that people who are not lawyers don't necessarily have that way of thinking. I think that critical thinking is key to this job. You have to be able to make decisions quickly and to move these cases along. Otherwise, you just get bogged down. I've been away from Nogales and from Santa Cruz County for 25 years. And so that puts me in a unique position that even though I'm from here and I understand the culture here, I also have this distance that makes me kind of see things from an outsider's perspective. And it gives me some space to be a little bit less tied to local pressure to make a decision one way or the other. I don't have people that I owe political equity to. I'm very adept at saying, I'm related to half this town. So will see people that are related to me, but those people will get the same treatment that anybody else will get. I differentiate between someone wearing a uniform and someone who's coming in off the street. This comes also from experience, but I have very clear ideas of what equality means, and that everyone that comes into this court is going to get a fair shot. That I can guarantee you.
Great, thank you. What do you feel are the biggest issues facing the Justice of the Peace position?
I came into this position with a trained staff. Judge Velasquez was here for a long time. He did a really good job about training staff. They were very well prepared. They're people who are very dedicated to their jobs. This is a stepping stone for a lot of people. A clerkship here does not pay a lot of money. There's young people who are starting families, who you need to buy a home. And salaries here are not at the level where we can really say to people, stick around for 20 years. So we will have a slow exodus out of this office, and we'll have to restaff it. One of my biggest concerns is how do we make this court and the county in general competitive salary wise so that we draw talent in here. I need people who are public facing. I need people who are well educated, who can learn quickly, who can be trained, demanding job. Thankfully, the Board of Supervisors recently has approved an increase in salary. We are losing talent. I mean, the county needs to figure out ways to keep young people here. We have to make our community, and it's not just young people, it's people who live here and could add value to this county government.
It's challenging.
In addition to a demanding caseload, you have to be a good administrator. We have budgetary constraints. I have to balance that budget. I have to make projections for that budget. Thankfully, I ran my own business in New York. I have a business background. I how those things work. I ran a staff in my Manhattan law firm. And so I have that experience. You can't just come in here, put a black robe, and sit on the bench.
What are the biggest changes we need to make to our justice system?
we have to make the judicial system more accessible. Especially in the justice court level, this is where I have some contact with the judicial system. We are not all going to end up with a felony in Superior Court, but we will with a speeding ticket or a dog citing or an eviction. God forbid we have a domestic violence case, but these are all the kinds of cases that everyday people, the justice court, have to become more accessible to the public. And I don't know necessarily that we can do that with the justice court, but there has to be a way that we can simplify the process, that people can come into court, resolve their issue, and walk out with immediacy, efficiency, and be able to get through the system quicker. I think that sometimes we get bogged down just because there's so many cases and there's so many, just in traffic alone. The justice court is doing all the civil traffic, all the criminal traffic, all the civil cases under $10,000, all the small claims court cases, all of the eviction actions, all the domestic violence orders of protection. The caseload is enormous, and that we have to kind of figure out a way to streamline. So I see that as one of the main goals in my next 2 years, is to how to make this more accessible to the public. I want people to feel like they can come in here, they can resolve their case, and they can walk out. It's done.
Thank you. What reforms do you support to increase access to justice for all? And that's a big question. And part B of
How
that,
much time do we have?
I know, right? And part B is, will you fight for them?
Well, that's the easy part.
Okay.
I will fight every single day on this court to make sure that everyone feels that they get justice here. That's one thing that's unequivocally a given for me. Justice for all is a loaded question. What does justice mean? Justice has a lot of different facets. There's the idea that we have to protect the public. There's also the idea that people are entitled to fast and judicial resolution of their cases. I feel like there is a lot to be done here, and we're getting there. But in terms of victims' rights, I believe in restorative justice. I believe that people deserve a second chance. I'm very adamant that cases need to be looked at critically. And if there is the opportunity to give someone a way out of a jail sentence, that we have to think about it. I don't think that jail necessarily solves all of our problems. It creates more problems than it solves. I think it separates families. It makes people, puts people in financial straits. I think it also doesn't do anyone really any good, especially criminals who get to have like a criminal college in the jail and they can learn new tricks to the trade. So for me, it's important to figure out alternative routes for justice. Part of that means letting victims have an active role. I think it empowers victims to voice their concerns, gives the perpetrators an opportunity to see the impact. It becomes a situation where they have this moral reckoning. And I think that that's where the crux of coming back to society without having this stigma of being stamped a criminal. So I think that it's a question that we could talk about for hours. There's ideas that I have that I want to implement. It's going to take a while. It's not going to happen in the next 6 months, but I want to make sure that people's constitutional rights are protected. I want to make sure that people know that they're innocent until proven guilty. I want people to know that if they're victims of a crime, that they have a voice. I want people to know that I will think about what the other alternatives are, because justice doesn't just come in one shade or one color. There are all different kinds of ways to find justice or to get to justice. Anyway, I don't want to take too much more time on that question. I think I've given you an idea of where my thoughts are. I do think public safety is a concern for me, and I will always strive to protect the public, but I won't do that at the cost of someone's constitutional rights, and I won't do that just for the sake of, quote unquote, what someone might think of as punitive justice.
Yeah, good. Thank you. I have two more questions. I feel like this next question you've answered a bit in just some of the issues that we've talked about thus far, but if there's anything else you want to add, how will you work to ensure equality for people of all backgrounds in your courtroom?
Yeah. This is one of the pillars of what I think justice means, and that is equal protection under the law for all people. And that means I don't care what the financial background is. I don't care what race, ethnicity. I don't even care about social strata. And that is something that I think I learned over the course of not living in a small community. I think that having gone out into the world and seeing injustice and seeing how some people have been treated over the course of history um, has really given me some insight. It's something that I find extremely important in our society as we're moving towards this more fractionalized world. I think it's important to make sure that everyone understands that at least in the judicial system, that everyone's considered equal and treated the same. How I plan on doing that in the justice court is a little bit more of a micro analysis, because obviously these are big questions, these are big issues that are coming up in our society today. I can tell you that right now, I will make sure that everyone's constitutional rights are applied equally, that there is no one that here will get any special treatment. There, like I said before, whether you're a uniformed officer or someone off the street, whether you're someone that may have a ton of cash and someone who is homeless, like I treat every case um, the same. I treat everyone with respect. Um, I do expect that people come into this courtroom and respect the position, the court, the law. And so I will always make sure that there's this level of respect for the institution, but I will also always respect every individual that walks in here.
Great, thank you. And I think the last question for you is, if you are elected, is there anything in particular that you're going to do with your first 30 days on the job?
Oh, well, uh, 30 days on
Besides
the job.
show up and come to work.
Well, yeah. Well, that's one. That in and of itself is a monster, because the amount of cases that we handle here, I think in the first 30 days, I mean, uh, I'm already in the job. So that's one thing. So my plan moving forward, obviously I'm in the job now and through December. And my plan for the next 6 months, are we at 6 months? More or less, 5, 6 months, is I plan on making sure that we get decent wages for the people that work here. We've already had a conversation between myself and the other judges here with the county supervisors, and they've been very accommodating. They've been very open to hearing our ideas. I think that we need to make an investment into the people that work here, not just in the courts, like I said, but countywide. That is one of my biggest priorities. I do feel also that I'm working to make this court more efficient. I've heard a lot of people say they call the justice court to resolve a ticket and they get put on hold by a third party vendor for 2 hours. That is something to me is very problematic. I want to make sure that people get customer service. That's something that I feel like we are here to serve the public. We're a public facing entity. This window will get traffic, like unbelievable traffic, Monday through Friday.
Mhm.
I'm short staffed, and I am working to make sure that that gets resolved, so that when people come here, they feel like if it's efficient, they get attentive service, polite service. Ultimately, we work for the public. So I want people to feel that when they walk in here, people are friendly, people they get their cases resolved, and they can move on.
Mhm.
I do believe that there's also this backlog of cases where people have outstanding warrants. My plan in the next 30 days is to start a program where people can come on a particular day without fear of being arrested to resolve their open cases. I think it's an important thing in the county-wide that if you do have an open warrant and you do fear driving or crossing the border or even going out somewhere, that you might be stopped by a police officer and end up in jail because you've never resolved this case, because you failed to pay a ticket or because you failed to appear for a ticket, that you can come in on a day that's specified by the court. The judge will be on the bench all day. All different kinds of cases can come in, resolve their case, and move on. I think that is something that needs to happen in this county. Just there's tons of people out there with open cases that haven't resolved them for one reason and another. I get it. I am not one to judge that at all. I do that all the time. I leave things to the last minute. People that need to get those things resolved, this court is going to be a place where you can have an open hearing with a judge who will be understanding, who will allow you to resolve your case so that you can move on. This warrant resolution program that I'm putting together is going to be published in the local papers. So you'll be hearing from my office because we'll definitely need Patagonia to be on board and everybody that's out east. I do feel like some people out on the eastern side of the county feel like sometimes they're lost in the shuffle. And I know that there was some controversy about closing the JP court out there before I was here. I want everybody to know, and especially people out east, that this is their court as well. This is not just a Nogales court. This is not Nogales Municipal. This is Santa Cruz County Justice Court. And that includes everyone from Amaro to the border, from Elgin, all the way back this way. So this is the place where you will be able to come to be heard. I'm going to make sure that the entire county knows that that there's going to be this warrant resolution day. It'll be on the radio, it'll be in the papers, it'll be on social media. I also I'm planning on a social media page on Facebook and on Instagram for the JP office so that we can really get the word out there. But I think this county in particular really depends on the local papers. And so I will be reaching out to make sure that that date is published with some time so people can plan and they can come in here. It will be a little bit of a cattle call. You know, there's going to be a lot of people sitting in the gallery waiting for their turn, but we will get it done. I mean, I am committed to getting this done. I think it's something that's important, and I think people will appreciate it once they're able to put this behind them and move on.
Mhm. Okay, well, I think that's it for my questions.
Oh, one more
Thank
thing
you.
is that's
Yeah.
going to be a continuing program.
Okay.
I foresee it that we'll have one day every month, like one Friday a month, and it'll be the same Friday. So either the last Friday, the second Friday, whatever it is, when I can work it out and make it a solid plan. But it'll be every month at this court where I sit for a day just to have people come in and resolve open cases that are left open. So it won't just be a one-shot deal. It will be something that people can count on, that they won't need to just kind of hold out for that one day a year. It will be something that's a regular occurrence in this court so that people feel comfortable coming in.
Mhm. It sounds like a helpful initiative for sure, and a needed initiative.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's it for my questions. I am grateful for your time. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to meet you. Good luck.
Thank you.
And yes, and we'll talk soon.
I hope so. Thank you so much for your time. I know that you guys are busy. There's a lot of candidates, and I really appreciate you guys fitting me in and at least giving us candidates an opportunity to speak to the public and to have the public really know who the candidates are and to make their educated choice.
Absolutely. It's important. It's an important initiative for us at the newspaper to let voters know and let community members know who they will be electing and who's running for office. It's just as much important for you as it is for us and our community members. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Okay. Have a good day. Talk soon.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.